Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question comes to us from a viewer. Thanks to Emerson for this one. Amy controls a Scute Swarm and an insect token that she made with it, and 5 lands. Amy plays a Mirrorweave to make everything into a copy of her Scute Swarm, and then she plays her 6th land. What are the characteristics of each token that she generates with her landfall triggers? Okay, so if you've watched this channel for a while now, you've probably heard me say something like, copy effects don't take into account any other kinds of continuous effects that are acting on the thing that you're copying. Actually, you didn't hear me say something like that. You heard me say exactly that. Because every single time that I talk about that rule, I always have to keep in mind that one of the biggest principal exceptions to that rule would be the fact that copy effects do take into account other copy effects that are acting on the thing that you're copying. So, taking that into account, we can say that if we had, for example, an insect token that was a copy of a Scute Swarm, and we wanted to make a copy of that token, then the way we would do that is we would take into account the fact that the copy effect acting on the insect token is affecting the copyable values of that token. So when we make another token that's a copy of that insect token, then that means that the new token that we're creating would have those same characteristics. So that's the answer to the question from the problem statement. Both of the tokens that Amy creates are going to have the same set of characteristics, those of the Scute Swarm. Now, what would happen at the end of the turn, after the Mirrorweave wears off? What would be the token's characteristics then? And some people might think that after the Mirrorweave wears off, then the token that was a copy of the insect is going to revert its values to the insect's values. But that's actually not how it would work. It turns out that once you apply a copy effect, any subsequent changes to the characteristics of the thing that you copied are not going to be taken into account. So that means that even after the Mirrorweave wears off, the token that the insect created is still going to have the characteristics of Scute Swarm, because those are the characteristics that the game used when it made that token in the first place. The token isn't a perpetual copy of the insect token. Rather, the game checks what the characteristics of the thing that it's copying are at one specific time when the token gets created, and after that point, if the characteristics of the thing that got copied change later on, well, that's not going to affect anything other than that specific permanent. The token that is a copy of that permanent is going to be completely unaffected. So this means that after the Mirrorweave wears off, Amy is going to have a Scute Swarm and an insect token, and 2 tokens that are copies of the Scute Swarm. One of those is not going to revert to being another insect token. Okay, so there's finally one other thing that I wanted to talk about because I could maybe see some people getting confused about it. Some people are maybe thinking, well, of course the tokens that got created are going to be copies of Scute Swarm. Mirrorweave says that everything is a copy of Scute Swarm, at least until end of turn. And it turns out that that's kind of a little bit misguided. And the reason is because that Mirrorweave has a continuous effect. And continuous effects that come from a resolving spell or ability, such as a Mirrorweave, are actually going to lock in the set of permanents that they apply to at the time when that spell or ability resolves. So that means that any tokens or any other stuff that enters the battlefield after the Mirrorweave resolves is not going to be affected by the Mirrorweave. And so we can say that the 2 tokens Amy made with her landfall triggers are not going to ever be part of the set of objects that Mirrorweave applies to. It turns out that the answer to this question would be exactly the same if Amy used, for example, a cytoshape or some other type of copy effect that only applied to just the insect token in order to make the insect token into a copy of her Scute Swarm. And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.